Welcome to the October 9th, 2018 episode of Reactive Consciousness, the in-depth podcast about what happened this week in our lives. I am your host, vysethebold, and this is...
Lotus Prince.
And... MrRyu.
Whoa.
Whoa!
What? Oh, man. We never say anything good after announcing us all.
Yeah. It's always just like, oh my god.
Oh my god, here they are!
This guy again, he rarely makes an appearance.
Well, we're glad to have you, of course, and we got another great show ahead. Lot of cool little updates. Not a whole lot of new things, but like a lot of updates on stuff we've been talking about and stuff we touched on in the past. So I'll first of all bring up Telltale, the update on the Telltale news. We've been talking about this quite a bit. MrRyu, have you heard about what's going on with this stuff?
Yes, Telltale's games is like shutting down. That I know.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's been quite the clusterfuck. They lost funding from AMC, and basically had to fire all their employees except for like 25 a skeleton crew in order to finish their work on Walking Dead and the Minecraft game.
Well, to be fair, I'm hearing that The Walking Dead is just a gigantic train wreck right now.
Yes. Well, apparently they're getting some fans back with the show recently. So they had a bad season, but it seems like it's on its way back up.
Because to be honest, I'm not really that into that show. I gave it the 3-season, chance, and I like it just started. The characters just started irritating me, so it's a show for me.
Well, aren't you happy their characters from it are going to be in Tekken now? I mean,
Awesome.
It's
the one
so
character
weird.
in Tekken, I'm like,
I forgot about that.
Why Negan? Is AMC like that desperate for?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's their biggest show right now. They don't really have a show to replace like the big shows that they had once upon a time. I mean, they had Breaking Bad and Mad Men, and Walking Dead was huge, and now Walking Dead kind of lost a lot of people last season. This past season.
Do you think maybe it's a sign that like Heihachi will join the TV show The Walking Dead?
It's just Heihachi going just kicking zombie ass.
Yeah,
he's speaking Japanese, but everyone can understand him, and he can
ass.
understand everyone else.
He's just kicking zombies off mountains constantly.
And the zombies are like biting him, but it's like no effect. He's Heihachi.
Yeah, press X to throw zombie off the cliff.
They just break their teeth on his skin.
Yeah. And like Heihachi's just having the time of his life, just beating up zombies.
Yes, it's just like Majima in Dead Souls. Like, oh, I get to shoot whoever I want. Okay.
Actually, that's the ending for like Akuma in Pocket Fighter. He's just like, I need a place to train. Here, you should go to this graveyard. It has zombies and stuff.
Are you
in, like,
serious?
Raccoon City, in like the Raccoon City mansion.
That's
it's
amazing.
Like, yes, this is the perfect place. Just
no, there was a similar ending in Soul Calibur 2, the PS2 version with Heihachi, because you know how for Soul Calibur 2, like Link and Heihachi in their respective games, it's like, oh, they came through a portal and now they're here. Yeah. So like with Heihachi's ending, he's just like, what do I do now? And he just goes into another portal and gets put into some other dimension, beats everybody there, goes into some other dimension, beats everybody there, and he's just kicking ass across dimensions until he finally ends up in his own, and he's like, huh. Okay.
It's like an episode of Sliders, except everybody gets their ass kicked.
Yeah, but Heihachi just kicks ass like in every universe, then lands in like his own world, and is like, well, there we go.
There's a couple interesting tidbits that I know about that particular Link in Soul Calibur 2.
Oh, yeah?
So apparently that Link is a unique Link that doesn't appear in any other Zelda games.
That's kind of funny.
I thought that was Ocarina of Time Link.
Apparently they confirmed him as a unique one. I believe I read that.
Okay, then he's like in the Zelda like Hyrule Historia.
That would be funny.
I don't think they even mention him in it, which is kind of funny. They don't mention him in the one from Hyrule Warriors in there. And
I
he's
was
a unique
thinking
one
that
as
We
well.
don't mention that Link.
Well, no, I remember that. I was playing Fatal Frame 5, and they have like the Nintendo costumes for some of the characters, and one of them is definitely Princess Zelda, but I didn't recognize which particular dress that was, and it turns out it was probably the Warriors version because Tecmo.
Oh,
Yeah. And but the other factoid that I know of is that he is anatomically correct in that game.
What?
He has actual like rendered testicles in
Weird.
the game.
Oh, okay. That's I don't know what you're looking at, but
They made it, not me.
I mean, like there in the Soul Calibur 5, you can make a giant dick on your creative character.
That's kind of funny.
If you see
That
that
is
with
really funny.
a Voldo moveset.
Oh, of course, yeah. What else would you do with it?
Why would you pick anything else? I mean, really.
Sonic the Hedgehog Voldo.
Oh, that was my favorite. But yeah, I this is also kind of related to the fact that there are a lot of guest characters showing up in fighting games. We also talked about how the SNK heroines is getting Skullomania, like a female Skullomania.
Yeah, that's hilarious.
Hey, and Terry's actually gonna appear in fighting the EX Layer. What's it called? Like
Yeah.
Anika's game. Yeah.
Mhm.
So like
Exactly.
what like I guess eye for an eye.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we getting back to Telltale. Apparently, the skeleton crew was fired, maybe because of the Halloween nature of in the Halloween spirit, the skeleton crew got fired. But no, seriously, the last remaining people got fired, and apparently they're outsourcing the final episodes to another company called Skybound, which I believe, usually when this kind of thing happens, it's an utter fucking mess. Like, because you're handing off code that like other people have to interpret and then build off of. So like they don't know like how this shit works. Like they would need somebody to teach them how the previous episodes were made. So that's crazy. I don't know why they would outsource it. Why it would be cheaper to outsource it than to keep like 25 employees. But what the hell do I know about business?
Now I feel even worse for the people who bought the season pass.
Yeah.
Have fun with episodes 2 through however many.
Apparently,
5.
According to the Kotaku article, they're finishing up the 4th season with that company. I don't know or the 4th episode with that company. I don't know if they're going to do the 5th. So who the hell knows, or whether they're going to rush it and just get that last episode out, the 4th episode. But who the hell knows? The whole thing's a
filled
mess.
with like salty like Easter eggs.
Yeah,
that would
you'll
be
find all kinds of
incredible.
crap in there.
I'm just imagining like that famous the Nintendo 64 game, The New Tetris. Where there's like code inside. Like if you access the ROM or something, if you like look into the code of the video game, there's just an angry rant by one of the developers and how this game sucks and his coworkers suck and fuck this whole thing. It's like, wow, okay.
My favorite one like that is there's like a pachinko game for the Famicom that has like all kinds of dirty shit.
Yeah.
And it like he's complaining about his coworkers, and then then the guy who programmed it like adds all kinds of dirty shit to it. And apparently like in another game he kind of has like a sequel rant.
Actually, you know what was interesting?
And it's very very much it sounds like it's the same guy.
No, you know what was interesting is like neither MrRyu nor I noticed it when we played through Ride to Hell, but like someone in the comment section pointed out in one of the cutscenes. I don't know why the hell this was even here, because we never went to a fucking eye doctor, but there was like one of those eye charts on the walls where like there's the letter A at the top, and then the letters get smaller as you go down this triangle, this pyramid thing. Apparently, if you read the letters like in order from top to bottom, left to right, it said I don't remember the name. Let's say John or something, but it spelled out something like John is like a bastard and a slave driver, and it's like, whoa, what is this? I don't know what the context for that is.
That's funny. Well, yeah, I mean, I wouldn't doubt that. There's so much bad blood there.
Yeah.
And I wouldn't want to, but I would really hope that that game turns out to be complete in some which way, but it sounds like it's gonna be a mess. So, I feel really bad for the developers in particular because these are just working stiffs like us.
Yeah.
It sucks. But I really feel for them. But I'm not even gonna buy that stuff. You know what I mean? Like I have all the other games leading up to this one, but I don't know whether I can even bring myself to buy something like this that like I know was made under terrible conditions like this.
Well, that's kind of the sad thing is that apparently a bunch of the other games were also made under terrible conditions, and it's just like we just had no idea.
Yeah, yeah.
It's like Konami, like
Yeah, people talk shit about EA, but like, wow, dude, like you couldn't pay me to work at Konami, even if that was on the top of Konami paying me to work there.
I was just gonna say.
I was like, wait a minute, it's a business.
That sounds like the idea.
Yeah, you couldn't pay me double to work at Konami.
Like, especially with the fact that, like, for Metal Gear Solid 5 during the awards, like, oh yeah, Kojima, you're not allowed to have the reward, for the thing you worked on. It's just like,
oh, I remember that. Yeah, like where Geoff Keighley told the audience that Kojima was legally, or not, I don't know legally, but like was like officially not allowed to be there, and that was one of those rare cases where the audience booed their support, and Geoff Keighley was like, yeah, I know.
Yeah, it was a big shame. Well, really feeling for people on that one. But we do have a lot of other updates here. We'll, of course, if any more that we hear about it, we will talk about it because it's just so damn interesting. It's just such a kerfuffle. But there are some new games that were announced and some updates. I'm going to go over a couple of the updates first. So Castlevania Requiem is coming out on PS4, and that looks like it's going to be a good way to play Dracula X, the PC Engine game, and Symphony of the Night, which is its direct sequel. So apparently it will have the updated voiceover in Symphony of the Night. So it's not going to have "What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets." It's not going to have the iconic lines. Apparently it's going to have the updated script from the PSP game.
Mm-hmm.
Oh.
Now, I am not entirely happy about that because the bad dialogue is iconic. Therefore, it's part of what that game is.
It would be cool if they gave you two options.
Yeah, they should have two options. I was about to say that.
Yeah.
Thanks for taking my thunder.
No, actually, you know what this reminds me of, though? Is that, like, I don't know how many people complained about the dialogue when the game first came out, but it kind of reminds me of Star Fox 64, where it was like, hey, Einstein, I'm on your side. And people were like, how do these characters know about Einstein? So when the 3DS version was released, it was like, hey, genius, I'm on your side. And everyone's like, yeah, but I grew up with Einstein, though. And it's like, nobody's happy ever.
Well, it's just like Resident Evil, like when they made Remake, there's no Jill sandwich.
Like, but that was such a damn good remake. Like, honestly, if they kept the stupid dialogue, I honestly think that would have detracted from the product.
It would have kind of killed. Yeah, it would kind of killed the mood.
No, it was a different game. Like, I would have a complaint if they re-released the PS1 game with new dialogue. That'd be a little weird.
Yeah. Well, the big thing is that people are now speculating what version of Symphony of the Night that this may be.
Mm-hmm.
There are 3 different versions of Symphony of the Night. There's the original PlayStation version. There is the Saturn version, which didn't perform well. When you play the game, it has a lot of slowdown. It's not programmed particularly well, but it's interesting because it has an extra 2 areas, and it also has the Maria mode. So it allows you to play as Maria when you beat the game. And then there is the PSP version, which is considered the most complete. Now, it does not have the extra areas from the Saturn version. However, it does have a finished Maria mode, like they fleshed it out.
Huh.
So people like that version the best. Like big Castlevania fans will tell you to play the PSP version of Symphony of the Night.
Yeah, but
Either like on a Vita or PlayStation TV.
But you know what the PSP version does not have is the goofy ass dialogue if you put your PS1 disc in a PC. And like the entire Red Book audio soundtrack, which I don't think they even wanted you to have, but it kind of turned out to happen that way.
Yeah.
The game is the soundtrack CD.
People are speculating that because it has the updated PSP dialogue that it may be the PSP version. So people are kind of happy about that because it gives you a reason to not be tethered to your PSP version anymore. But it does remove something in the fact that the PSP collection, the Dracula X Chronicles, had a remake of Dracula X. It had the regular Dracula X and Symphony of the Night. It won't have the remake of Dracula X, which is pretty damn good. Not only did they remaster the levels, but they also added a level. So it kind of had some ugly visuals, but it had some great gameplay. So people are disappointed that overall this Requiem seems like it's a half-assed, but might be a little bit better than half-assed release. So people are kind of like passively optimistic about it. Like apparently it doesn't have forced filters, which is good. You don't have to play like a super oily looking gloss.
Oily?
Yeah. Like the best way to describe like emulators that like smear the pixels. You know what I mean?
Like when they try to upscale.
Exactly,
okay, yeah.
upscalers.
Yeah, I get it.
Exactly.
What do you mean like the phone ports of games when you play them on Steam,
Exactly.
like that?
Like Final Fantasy VI?
Yes.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So it looks like there's like like glycerin on your on a camera lens or something like that. You know what I mean? It just looks bad.
Yeah,
It looks
yeah.
smeared.
Every time I see like an upscale, like maybe like Third Strike Online Edition, when I saw like the HD upscaler where everything looks smeared, I'm like, nah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of funny because like there was a sort of bias against pixels back when more high res stuff came into being, but now at this point, if you upscale and everything looks chunky, it's like, well, it was made that way though, so it's still the best option.
People prefer pixel art. There are so many games made with pixel art now that like it's a normal look for games. So don't put an upscaler to things. Like don't.
Also, do you know how much
things.
effort is put into making these damn sprites? And like,
Yeah.
they look good and they age well on like PlayStation
Yeah.
1 graphics.
And you see them on TV, and you're like, oh man, look at all these sprites. But like, if you actually look at the graph paper and the colors people able to do in 1,000 million squares, it's like it's pretty mind blowing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
What
exactly.
I was gonna say is each of the squares are painstakingly placed to make the image look correct.
Yeah.
So if you are smearing that, you are ruining the work that was put into making that look correct.
And not to mention, one thing really threw me. This is the Final Fantasy VI specific example, but you know the person who does the art for like all the Final Fantasy games, like
Yoshitaka Amano?
yes,
Amano, yeah.
yeah,
Amano,
like
yeah.
with that wispy like Sailor Moon manga kind of look. What I didn't realize is that like you have your gameplay sprites, but when you look at your character's profile pic, they still have that distinct look. It's just like a quote-unquote high-res. It's still a pixel image that has that look. And, like, I never really paid attention at the
Ruins the
time,
art.
but in retrospect, it's like, that's really impressive.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
It's just like the art that Yoshitaka Amano did, and it just like they just put it like in pixel format.
Pretty much. It blew my mind. Like,
Yeah.
well, it didn't blow my mind back then, but, like, it does now. Like, I didn't realize that they were able to translate that look so well.
Yeah. So I'm cautiously optimistic about this. I mean, it is a Castlevania release. There hasn't been a Castlevania anything since the anime.
Well, there is Bloodstained. That's
Well,
essentially
kind of.
Castlevania.
Yeah. Yeah,
So-
what was the most recent one though? Was it like the PS3, like Lord of Shadow and the 3DS counterpart?
Lords of Shadow 2. Lords
Okay.
of Shadow 2 is the most recent Castlevania game in general.
Wasn't that like a God of War ripoff or something? I remember being a
Yeah.
ripoff of something.
Well,
Yeah,
there were boss fights that were
Oh,
ripoffs of
Shadow
Shadow
of
of
the
the Colossus,
Colossus,
complete
that's
with
right.
the
Exactly.
Shadow of the Colossus style music when you're climbing them. It's like, dude, like it's a little too on the nose at that point.
At least it's better than those two games are better than any of the other 3D games by a long shot. The other 3D games might have their fans, but these games are like actually like playable and fun.
I will
You can have
say,
some fun
even
with
though
it.
Castlevania 64 is like easily the worst in terms of gameplay, I
Yeah.
gotta say, it has probably the coolest final version of Dracula in the entire series.
I personally like the Legacy of Darkness, the second version of Castlevania 64. I like that quite a bit.
Yeah, that was the Night on Bald Mountain demon final form, right?
Yeah, that was neat. Yeah,
Have you seen the original version's final form?
wasn't he like a dragon?
It's fucking
Something like-
ridiculous. It's
Yeah.
like it's like a dragon's torso and arms and head, but the lower part is just like a giant centipede. It's so original.
Yeah, that's really cool. Well, getting back to this release, a lot of people say that it's because of the anime's, popularity and the fact that the second season is getting released that they're coming out with this collection, which is fine. It makes a whole lot more sense than not releasing any Castlevania games forever while an anime to promote the brand is
Right?
being
That's so
released.
weird.
It's ridiculous.
Like, oh, I want to play a Castlevania game now. You can't.
I am super excited about the second season of Castlevania. I can't wait to watch it because I love the first season. I thought it was great.
I'm excited for the prospect of Castlevania Judgment 2.
No, you're not.
No, I'm not.
But maybe with a collection of the two most popular games in the series, Dracula X and Symphony of the Night.
Yeah.
I would deem them as the two most popular games in the series.
Actually, I forgot how this worked. Like, is Dracula X like? You said it was the PC Engine version, so it's actually
Yes.
like legitimate Rondo of Blood and not like
Correct.
Super Nintendo Dracula X.
So that would be considered Dracula XX. If you look at the Famicom game, it says it's Dracula XX.
Okay.
So the Super Nintendo game is actually a completely different game. It has like some commonalities, but it's more like sprites are in common, but like the levels are completely different.
Okay.
And it's a completely different game. It's kind of like a remake on Super Nintendo. So if you were gonna play through all the games, like let's say on your YouTube channel, like do a let's play of every Castlevania
Yeah,
game,
I would actually want to do both.
you would want to do both.
So instead of picking the best version, it's like, no, they're different games. I would play both anyway.
Correct. They have completely different bosses.
Oh, hello.
And yeah, like it's a different game, and it has the same story though. So you can make a
you don't play Castlevania for the fucking story. Like,
yeah.
It's like Streets of Rage. Yeah, I guess it has a story. Whatever.
You walk to the right and kill zombies.
I know. Yeah, come on.
But anyway, so the PC Engine game and then its sequel, Symphony of the Night. A lot of people didn't get a chance to play, Dracula X because it had been locked to an obscure system. To Americans, the PC Engine is TurboGrafx 16 is an obscure system, and it's for the CD add-on, the Super CD add-on. For that, and it happens to be the best like traditional Castlevania game ever made.
And the music's rad, by the way. I don't like. It's
really
been
great.
a long time since I saw that game. Like, you brought it to my place like once, 5
And
or
it has
6 years ago.
branching
The
paths.
music's pretty sweet.
Yeah, and on top of that, it has branching paths, and it was the first game in the series to have like an anime art
cutscene.
style.
Yeah.
Art style. Yeah, and it did
Animated
have
cutscenes,
cutscenes too. Yeah, but Symphony of the Night is its direct sequel. It happens like basically right after it, after a few years, but concerning the same characters. So it's cool that they're putting this together, and it's going to be upscaled up to 4K, which is pretty neat. But
Nice.
It, it's the least they could do. Is put out the two most popular games and give you access to them. So hopefully, they'll start doing that with the DS games, or put them on Switch or something.
The DS
really
games,
good.
I remember, like, I never played those, of course, and I never even really saw my friends play them or whatever, but I've seen little snippets of some of the bosses.
They're
And
fantastic.
yeah,
All three of them
they
are great.
definitely are show-stopping bosses. And I think one of them, I think this was DS. It was either that or Game Boy Advance, but there's totally like a Dio from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure boss.
I think so. I think that's in Dawn of Sorrow.
Yeah,
But yes, the first
Dawn
one.
of Sorrow DS. Yeah, like so
Yeah.
he throws knives and shouts like time has stopped. He freezes time. It's like okay.
It's either that or Portrait of Ruin. I don't think it was in the third one at all. But anyway, I wanted to do some more updates on things. I don't think we ever talked really about this, but Mega Man 11 was just released
Yeah.
last week,
Oh, really?
and apparently it's great.
I've seen a bunch of gameplay. Like I'm not a Mega Man guy, but that game looks really solid.
I've been
Yeah.
seeing like previews of it and like clips of it, but I didn't really know like when the release date was, so I might check that out
Yeah, it's,
later.
by the way, one thing you gotta brace yourself for. This was super funny. I saw it on Twitter, and like someone posted a very quick, like 6 or 7 second clip, and half of the responses were furious, and the other half were like, "I don't understand. I legitimately don't understand the problem." If you walk up to a boss door and you jump into it,
I was gonna mention
you
this.
land on the ground and then you go through the door.
No!
It was so funny because I posted
So
that.
unnatural.
Yeah, like I retweeted that, and a lot of people were like, I'm not seeing it." And then I told Luminary, it was like, "Oh!" It was so great.
I love doing that. No.
I know.
But apparently the game, like I was totally not, like I was leaving myself open to like either, I was just waiting to hear what was up with this game, because I didn't know whether it was going to be any good or not. I had reservations about it. Of course, this is the first time that they are switching to a 2.5 D style for the original series.
Oh yeah.
So I believe there might be some elements in that in Mega Man 8, but I think that's still a pixel art game.
Yeah, eight looked more rounded, but yeah, 11 has a different look. I will say, from what I've seen, I gotta say, I can't speak much for the audio because I watched it on Game Grumps, and they usually keep the game volume pretty low so you can hear their commentary more clearly. But Aaron was saying he wasn't too terribly impressed by the music or sound design, but the visuals are gorgeous. The voice acting
Gameplay's
sounds
great.
solid. The gameplay looks good. The level design also looks really creative. Like it looks like you would have fun like being in the act of playing this game, and it's got a shop like Mega Man like 7 or 8 or whatever it did.
Apparently the boss weapons are very useful and are really neat to use.
Yes,
Like
there's an
they did a
electric.
good job with them.
Yeah, there's some sort of electric boss where there's one level where I think this gimmick was used in. It was certainly used in Mega Man X, maybe in an older Mega Man game. But there's like an enemy that produces light, but it's an enemy. So if you kill it, the room goes black. So
Yeah.
you gotta put up with that shit in X. But like if you use the electric ability, then as long as the electricity is going around the platform or hitting something, then you could see a little bit. It's little things like that where it's not even for attack. It's just kind of nice.
Yeah, apparently there are practical uses for almost all of them.
Yeah.
Which is really neat. Apparently there was a lot of thought put behind this game, and I really appreciate that, because when you make a new Mega Man game after not having a Mega Man game for so long, Mega Man 10 is probably 10 years old at this point.
What was that on the Wii?
The Wii, the original
Jesus
Wii.
Christ.
Mega Man had last appeared in what, a Street Fighter Cross Tekken, right?
Oh yeah, the
Oh my
box
God.
art of American Mega Man. That was the best decision. So people got furious at that, and I understand why, but I thought it was hilarious.
No, it's great.
Yeah.
No, well, they had also made a Street Fighter Cross Mega Man like fan game, but
Oh
like
It was
yeah.
kind of
Capcom
official.
officially sanctioned it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they're like,
I forgot about that.
it was weird because like it's a fan made project. I was like,
Sure.
okay, we'll make it official. Okay.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
then-
Which is awesome. The Street Fighter characters are the bosses in it, which is pretty neat.
That was really clever. Yeah.
But yeah, it's great that they put the care that they needed to into this game. If only they would put out another X game, I would love that. So hopefully,
I mean-
hopefully,
I don't know, like 7 was so good because
I was gonna say the-
burn to the ground.
You punk, you punk, you punk. The thing with the X Games, though, is like people weren't too hot about 5. They liked 6 less. 7 was garbage. 8 was
better than 7.
than 7 and probably 6, I guess. Like question mark.
Yeah.
So it's like
8 was good, but it was too late by then. 7 already
Yeah.
just tarnished Mega Man X.
well, it just makes me think of the Silent Hill community. Everyone's like, God damn it, Konami, release a Silent Hill, and it's like, guys. You've hated every fucking Silent Hill that's come out since like the PS2, like since Origins.
Yeah.
I mean, they're all since the fucking PS2, but like since Origins on the PS2, it's like, do you really want another Silent Hill? Because all you're gonna do is complain about it.
yeah. I mean, the thing was that there was a mini renaissance going on with the Mega Man games for the GBA
Yeah.
and DS. I mean, you had the 4-0 games which were all pretty damn
Yeah,
good.
people like those, yeah.
And then the 2ZX games were quite good as well on top of it. So I mean, there was some movement going on there. It's just like people weren't paying attention because they weren't consoles. But
Yeah.
there was some good stuff. But I hope that Mega Man 11 kind of brings it back. But of course, I don't want them to burn Mega Man out either because they've done that.
Burned to the ground.
They burned it down to the ground.
So I'm probably gonna get this for Switch because I think it's a really good fit for the Switch.
Actually, yeah, it is. Since Mega Man did like start in Nintendo, and like the Switch is like the perfect like hybrid, portable and like console.
Yep.
kind of thing.
Exactly,
Yep.
exactly. And it's not the kind of game where I need like performance. It's not like it's not a AAA title. It's not like
Yeah.
it's not made like that. So
Want to crank up the graphics.
the slider, the slider, yeah.
Yeah, the 3D
But-
slider.
But there was another game announced for Switch as well, which I believe you're quite excited about. Their Lotus. The Room was, and I've been talking about this game for years.
Yeah, I saw your note on the show notes page for it, and I was like, do you mean the Newgrounds game, The Room? Like,
No. So he's referring to the Tommy Wiseau inspired Newgrounds adventure game.
yeah, it
which
was
is
like The
quite
Room.
awesome.
Like, Silent Hill 4 The Room? Like, what is The Room?
So this is a game that came out on iOS initially and then Android. This is a series of games. I think there are 3 of them or 4. I'm pretty sure there's 3 though. They are quite possibly my favorite iOS games. Like I am pretty much done with cell phone games. Like
Oh,
in
I
terms
think
of
I know
really
what this
liking these.
is.
So what it is you are given a puzzle box, like a big puzzle box, and it is your job to scour this puzzle box and look for clues on how to open it, and then you keep opening up layers and layers and layers inside. of
This was when I was
this
at your
puzzle
place
box.
playing like The Room 2 or something, right?
Correct. Correct.
Okay, yeah, I think they have like 1 and 2 on Steam or something, and not the 3rd.
Correct. Well, I don't. Yeah. I think that's the way it works. But they're putting
Okay.
the first one on Switch.
All right.
The third game is the most complex game because you go from room to room. It should be called Rooms, but
Well, that was taken. That's on the Wii.
yeah, you're right. And there are current games in that series, by the way. But
Wow.
anyway, but this is a really cool game that deserves to not be locked to cell phones, which will eventually lock you out of playing them.
Yeah.
The big thing about cell phone games is that they're pretty cool while you're playing them, but they are very much disposable. After the people have left this game, these games need to continuously be updated in order to fit with the new versions of the OS.
Yeah.
And therefore they get left in the dust. Android games are a little bit better at this for legacy content, but not by much. But iOS games are notoriously left in the dust, and you cannot play them with new updates of the operating system.
Wow, that
It really
sucks.
sucks.
Well, yeah,
Yes.
like that's the really that's the pain in the ass thing. So like unless you buy a phone specifically for games and refuse to update it ever, then like if you come back in 2030, like you can't play any cell phone game that you bought now.
Yeah, and it's a shame because there are some really great early iOS games that had like a lot of originality and things like that, and
There
you just can't play them anymore.
there were even these weren't even
They're
very
lost.
good, but there were some esoteric Silent Hill titles as well.
There were even some games made by the guys who made SteamWorld Dig.
Hmm.
Um, they made a game called Ant Hill, and I think that isn't even playable at this point. And it was a good game. You know, it was a lot of fun.
And just think, like
Um,
even Mario Runner is like eventually gonna disappear. I mean, it's a fucking Nintendo
yeah,
game, so I'm sure they'll update it for a while, but like that's eventually gonna go away probably.
exactly, and it's a shame. So the Room is definitely a great amount of fun. It is a casual game. I will first and foremost say that it is not a hardcore game in the slightest.
Ew.
It's a
Filthy casuals.
filthy casuals, but it is the kind of casual game that I think anybody can enjoy. It is not dumbed down in the sense it's a kind of game that appeals to a lot of people, but it has challenge to it in
Oh,
that
it's. Oh,
um,
sorry.
what I was gonna say is it has logic puzzles in it.
Yeah.
So it's a lot of fun to play with those kinds of logic puzzles. It has like a background story going on, which is kind of cool, like a Lovecraftian kind of thing going on. Um, these games are a lot of fun, and you get kind of like with Portal, you get a lot of pleasure and accomplishment from beating each step.
It's called
Um,
pride and accomplishment.
But yeah, definitely check these games out once they come out on Switch. They'll be on a more digestible platform,
Yeah.
more permanent
I'm
platform,
still
and
waiting for the fucking third game to come out on anything except for a phone.
yeah, yeah, it's a shame because the third game is a lot more complex and therefore has a lot more going on, and
Yeah.
it
I was thoroughly
is
impressed by what
probably the
little I
best game in
saw
the
of the
series.
second game.
Yeah, no, they're all fun, and they get increasingly more complex, and like you want to pay good money for the third one. Like the third one is worth paying more money than the other two.
Mm,
I think the third game is like a $15 game on
okay.
iOS, and it's worth it. I mean, you normally don't pay over like $2 for most iOS games, but this game is worth it. It has a lot of gameplay. You're and like there's a lot going on with it, and it's a lot of fun.
Oh,
So
you know what that reminds me of. Speaking of which, like of cost on iOS, I'm just reminded that you know the remaster of White Day that hit the PS4.
oh yes,
That was on phones first, so it's like
wow.
that was probably a more
What?
expensive one. Yeah,
Wow.
like I remember people like talking about discrepancies, how there were like infinite saves on the phone because it's like, what do you want from me? Whereas in the on the PS4 you gotta like it's like the PC version. You gotta like find an item. It's like the ink ribbons in Resident Evil. You have X number of saves.
Well, thankfully, nowadays, like most games that come out on the phone are specifically just built for them and like kind of cater to people who like that platform.
Hmm.
So, like a lot of the RPG and gacha kind of stuff is basically all that's being made for it, and that's fine. I'm glad that games like this are being saved and put on other platforms that have some legacy to them,
Yeah.
because I don't particularly like the platform for gaming being these smartphones and tablets. However, I'm not going to shy away from a good game if I have access to it. You know, I have quite a few games that are not the typical cell phone type game on my cell phone. Like you know, I have the version of Sonic the Hedgehog
Yeah.
that's on Android that is amazing. It's probably the best version of Sonic the Hedgehog. You have
Wow.
Part-Time UFO, which is a fantastic game. Everybody should play that.
And you
Um,
have one of those shooter games. Like it's not Gradius, but you have some shooter type game on there.
I have plenty of shooters.
Yeah.
I have Galaga Wars. I have some of the cave games were actually made for iOS, and they
Oh,
were
wow.
really good versions. But anyway, I digress. They should like if I could play them on anything else, I would.
Yeah.
Is my point,
Yeah.
and that's the way it should be. Also, Lotus will definitely be into this. There was a major update to the System Shock Alpha progress. Did you read any of this?
No, I haven't been following it because except for when they released the initial demo on Unity, where it's like we're doing a remake, and I'm like, are you shitting me? Like other than that, I haven't followed. I'll wait till the game is ready. But it's cool that they are making progress because like for real, like Vice, I know that you know, but MrRyu, I've showed you a little bit of System Shock 2 back in the day, but have you ever seen System Shock 1?
No, I have not. Maybe you've shown it to me like a while ago, but it might have been a long time ago.
I don't think I showed it to you. I know I showed you 2 a little bit a while, but like System Shock 1, I fucking dare you to try playing System Shock 1 without knowing what's going on.
Just don't
because
do it.
like I mean, it looks like System Shock 2, but way more pixely. It's an older game. You move around the way you'd think you would, but it's not like System Shock 2 where you move the mouse and you aim and fire. Like, you can do that, but the thing is, you have to, like, go into mouse mode to move your mouse around to click on stuff, so you can't really move during that. It's kind of like you go from moving around to turning it into a point-and-click adventure game when you want to pick items up and stuff like that.
I'll give him a good explanation.
So it's like clunky like GoldenEye.
No. I'll give you the best
GoldenEye
explanation
is clunky,
here.
but yeah.
I'll give you the best explanation. It's
Okay.
kind of like playing Steel Battalion. Like, you control a human being so unnaturally that it feels like you're piloting a mech. Like, you have to click on look left, look right.
Yep.
Not
left and right, but you do have to click to look up and down.
Yeah.
So when Night Dive re-released the game on GOG, you can play OG version or enhanced version. Enhanced version has mouse look, and like you cannot believe like mouse look is taken for granted now, but when you don't have it and then you get it, it's like it's otherworldly. So you can you still have to click and go into point and click mode to pick up items, but when you're moving around, the fact that you can look up and down by moving the mouse the way you can on every other game made today, it's like the most liberating thing. It probably makes the game very different from what it was originally intended, because the game was intended to be played, the only way it was programmed. It's kind of like I don't know, it's almost like having a cheat code now.
Yeah. MrRyu, the funniest part about all the movement in this game is that there is a picture of like a man on the top left hand corner of the screen.
Yeah, your HUD is huge.
So there are if you want him, if you want to like kneel, you can click him to move him down, so you can kneel and then like get lower.
Or something. Yeah.
Yeah. So there's no easy way. Like, there are definitely like puzzles where you have to kneel down to look at something, and you have to like click on this guy, this little figure
it's so
up top.
Clunky.
It's so clunky as shit. It's like piloting a mech.
And by the way, the original game was
funny.
released where all the dialogue was in text. So like even the original game had a re-release shortly after. It still played like shit. There was no mouse look. Mouse look was introduced to GOG in like 2016 or something. But like the original game was like, I think there was a floppy disk version, and then it later got a CD-ROM version. And the CD-ROM version has voice work that sounds like the voices you know today with the stuttering, creepy Shodan, and it's like, whoa, so much better.
Yeah. Now, I will say that what's cool about this update is that for a long time people thought that this was a lost Kickstarter thing, because they hadn't updated and they trashed an early version of the game.
Yeah, that was uncomfortable, because like, yeah, there was that. They're like, oh, we figure it should go in another engine, and it sounds like a fucking Duke Nukem Forever project. And then there was this uncomfortable update where they were like, oh yeah, we're going on temporary hiatus for we don't know how long because we're putting effort into other projects. And people got so mad because they're like, shouldn't the money we gave you for System Shock go into System Shock? But like after like a month or something, they did announce a return, and it was like the biggest sigh of relief.
Yeah.
Oh,
So there are some major updates to this, and it is a full-fledged game. Like it's an actual alpha where there's
Yeah.
actual stuff, and like it's going to be a complete game.
Yeah.
This game is going to be completed.
And of course
So
it plays like a modern game.
yeah,
It's like Resident Evil's remake. Like, what if we made it for the GameCube? It's kind of like that.
yeah. So no, this will be the version of the game to play. Hopefully they add some areas to just to make it as long as it should be.
Yeah.
Because like an old clunky game like that, the reason why it was old, it took so long to play because you had to like save and reload because the controls sucked like
Yeah.
constantly
And you
because
didn't know
you
what
would
the
get
hell you
beat
were
up.
doing ever.
Yeah, you didn't know what you were doing and you would die all the time.
Yeah, this is one of those games where if you really know what to do, you could probably beat it in a couple of hours, maybe like 3. In
But
fact, hard
it would
mode.
take you 20 now.
Yeah,
If you were to play it for real, it would take you like 20 hours.
Yeah, speaking of which, by the way, this game has it's not just easy, normal, hard difficulty. There are aspects of the game that you can change. So you
Yeah.
can you can like turn enemies off, for example. You could just have no enemies in a fucking System Shock game because they're like remember this is System Shock and like BioShock. There are like infinite enemies. Like you can clear an area, but if you leave for a while and come back, you'll find a couple guys still around. So you could turn off enemies. You could increase their rage or stuff like that. But there's also one of the hard modes is like beat the game in 7 hours or less. It's like, oh shit.
Not gonna happen. Yeah.
Like if you've played the game a bunch of times before, you may know what to do. But if you're like, I'm gonna play the game for the first time, it's like, all right, well you got a time limit. It's like D, D the game. Like
no, I haven't. I is that that Dreamcast game? I've heard of it.
it's on
but I don't know it.
Dreamcast and no, it's on Saturn.
That's D2.
and-
Saturn. Okay.
Yeah, it's on
D-
Saturn
D2's on
and
Dreamcast.
PS1. Yeah, but the gimmick with D is beat it in 2 hours or game over. Like, I think it's the kind of game you can beat. Well, obviously it is, but it's the kind of thing I think you can get away with, even if it's your first playthrough. You might be cutting it close, but it's like, beat it in 2 hours, go. Like, okay.
Well, anyway, I just wanted to say that there's major progress in that, and I can't wait for that. It probably still needs another year in the oven, but at least it has an alpha that people are play testing.
Yeah, as
So
long as they're doing stuff, I'm
that's
cool. Yeah.
Hey,
Yeah.
I look forward to hearing the creepy voice acting. Because, again, with System Shock 2, the audio logs made the game. Like, MrRyu, did you ever play Doom 3?
Yes, I have, and yes, I know about the audio logs you're talking about.
Yeah, because that's very System Shock 2. I don't know how many games had done that after System Shock 2, so it felt like an homage to me. But just the idea of hearing what people were doing as things got worse and worse, like that's... I guess System Shock 1 did do it first, but I first learned about it in System Shock 2, and it really contributed to the atmosphere.
There's some precedent for it in the marathon games, but they were in audio logs. They were in they were in textual format, but there was some precedent
Resident
to it.
Evil did that too. But like I just first heard the audio version of just things with creepy voice acting and everything. It was great.
Well, got some more updates here. I've been talking about the Williams pinball games moving to Pinball FX3 from the Pinball Arcade platform. They are releasing 4 tables the day that we release this on Tuesday, Tuesday the 9th. Everybody who has the Pinball FX3 will get fishtails for free, which is great because Pinball FX3 is a free app. You just pay for additional tables. So you will get one of the best pinball tables of all time. Fishtails is really, really good for free, which is great. They are, along with it, releasing 3 other fantastic Williams tables. Medieval Madness, which is probably considered one of the best pinball games of all time. It is ranked number 1 on, I think, one of the biggest pinball websites where people like. I think it's Pinball DB. It's like IMDb, but for pinball games.
Oh.
Pinball DB has Medieval Madness as the fan favorite number 1.
Huh.
So that will be in there. The Getaway High Speed 2 which is a great game. It's one of the very few direct sequels in pinball format, which is great. It has a really neat mechanic where you can shoot this ball around this racetrack, and it goes faster and faster and faster. It speeds it up, kind of like Hot Wheels when you were kids on those like speeding tracks.
Mm.
It's really neat.
Oh.
And then Junkyard, which is a lot of fun as well. It's only $10 for the 3 of them, and of course you get all 4 then as well. So $10. And Pinball FX3 is free on every platform. So you can download, you can find it on Android, iOS, PlayStation 4, Xbox One, Switch, and Steam. So I can't wait to play this. I'm going to buy it on Switch because you can't get much better than a portable arcade-style game.
Whoa, it's like a pinball machine in your lap.
What's that a reference to?
I don't know. It's like all those infomercials or something. Just any infomercial.
I'm still waiting.
And forget it.
Yeah, I'm still waiting for them to re-release that pinball game, that space game.
Space Connect.
Yeah, that came with like Windows
Connect.
XP or whatever.
Oh yeah, that's what I
yeah.
played. I was like, I'm bored.
That game was great. You know what blew my mind? I saw a Lazy Game Reviews video where apparently there was like an in-box full version of that game. It's like, what?
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Nobody knew.
Well, yeah, because nobody can make it past like rank 2 or 3 or whatever. It's like, all right, I've had my fun.
I will also say that in addition to faithful recreations of all 4 of these tables, previously Pinball FX3 had been fantasy tables, which being tables, pinball tables that were digital creations that didn't exist in the real world. So these Williams pinball tables are something new for them because now they are simulation. They're simulating a real pinball table. They have vanilla versions of all of these, but they also have enhanced versions with extra features if you want them, like special effects and things like that to make it seem more fun.
Here's a question: Is Williams, because you said they're doing simulations, but you said normally they focus on just made up stuff that could never happen in real life.
Correct.
Pinball.
Mm-hmm.
When are they going to make Sonic Spinball 2?
Whenever the options music is palatable.
I was going to say with its surprisingly gritty music and soundtrack.
It's pretty decent music, but if you want to hear the worst Genesis song ever made, and if you want to point to how bad Genesis music can get, even though I love Genesis music, you should listen to the options screen. It is it is like a buffet of shit.
Because I was gonna say,
curious, like right now.
I gotta look it up, but I gotta say, so because the sound effects when you get the emeralds, or like again the music is like pretty dark for that era of video games for a fucking pinball game. It's
very Euro, which I think the game was made in Europe. It just feels like
Robotnik looks creepy as shit.
Okay, so I
should look at level 1's Robotnik boss. It's like, whoa, there's like a scorpion. It's like, what the hell is that? It's
a weird game.
Like I never played that game. Well, I think I tried that game like once when I was a kid or whatever. But that's the kind of game that if I'd owned and played it a bunch, that first boss probably would have creeped me out if I were a kid. It's like actually creepy.
It's also the only game in the Sonic universe to acknowledge the characters from the Saturday morning cartoon show. And
no, that Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine.
Well, Scratch and Ground are in that.
Yeah, Robotnik's Mean Bean Machine was Saturday morning cartoon, Scratch and Grounder. Like, you played against them with that Puyo stuff.
Yeah, but that was the Adventures of Sonic the Hedgehog. I'm talking the Saturday morning AM.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Excuse me.
With the Princess Sally, Acorn, and like
the vastly
Rabbit.
superior show. Yes.
Yeah. So those characters are in a bonus round.
Well, how come Sonic Generations never teamed up with Spinball Sonic? By the way, speaking of Sally Acorn, this technically did not refer to the Saturday morning cartoon, so I guess I'll give it a slide. But Sonic CD, the level where you save, obviously, Amy Rose.
Yeah.
I don't think her character had yet been established in America. So like the American Sega CD, like Sonic CD instruction manual calls her Sally.
Calls her Sally, yeah.
And she is not even close to like what Sally looks like. And you're like, all right, I guess I'll take it.
She's not even the same species.
Yeah, that's true.
So anyway, but I did want to give an update on that because they're finally releasing their first pack here, and they're very affordable. I mean, $10 for three fantastic pinball tables, and you get one free on top of it. I mean, come on. I can't wait to see what else they're going to announce. I think they will probably announce tables that had never been released on Pinball Arcade. There were a couple of like interviews taking place. The Zen Studios, who makes Pinball FX, they were doing like interviews about how hard they were working on these games. But they had done a specific interview in front of the Indiana Jones pinball table.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that was hinting that the Indiana Jones table might get released, which Pinball Arcade never got the funding to be able to do, because you need to get Harrison Ford's likeness.
That's true.
You need to do like all that stuff.
There's so many things that like aren't even part of the game. It's just the table that you like don't think about, but you need to like do all this logistic hoop jumping.
So they did a lot of that stuff. I mean, Addams Family, they were able to get done. Like
that's
they
ridiculous, by the way.
They got everybody but Christopher Lloyd's likeness, which was weird. But like they got Star Trek: The Next Generation, like everybody to agree to have their face in it. Terminator 2, they had Arnold on it. Like
if they couldn't get Christopher Lloyd's likeness, then does that mean that there's going to be no plans for a Camp Nowhere pinball machine?
That's really funny.
Who the fuck would play that? Even pinball.
Jesus Christ. That was a joke that was made for two people, and they're here.
I actually remember a couple of the jokes from that movie that weren't bad.
Yeah.
But I would not watch that movie again.
How about the Suburban Commando pinball table? I was frozen today!
Yeah. That they already have a game for that. It's called Afterburner.
I think there might have been an Amiga game for Suburban Commando.
Oh, jeez, come on. Get the hell out of here.
But anyway, it would be really cool to have Indiana Jones. I mean, they already... Zen Pinball already makes Disney-related tables. They have been making Marvel tables and Star Wars tables for a very long time and still do. So they have a good working relationship with Disney. They could probably make an Indiana Jones release happen, which is one of the best pinball tables of all time, too. On top of it.
Actually,
really
wait, is the Indiana Jones table you said was like an actual real table?
Yes.
Yeah. Oh, okay, never mind. Because I was going to say, if they were going to do a fantasy one, I don't even know how the hell they would incorporate this, but I could see them having, like, not that you can control it, but, like, a giant pinball for, like, the boulder, but I don't know how you would do an escape chase sequence with it. It doesn't even make sense.
What's cool is they kind of do feature that. I don't know if you ever played this game when you were a kid. There was, like, this marble maze where you would, like... bring a marble across like a little bridge. Like it was like a cool toy that we used to have when we were kids, or your friend might have had, where you just bring. It was kind of like a marble labyrinth, but like had more steps to it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yeah, there's like a challenge. It's like there's like a little timer, and then like there's obstacles you have to like get through. And,
Yep.
Yeah.
And each step had a different lever or a turn knob or something to get the ball through. Now, it's kind of like that. So there is a section where the ball will drop down, and you control this like balancing thing with the flippers, and there are a lot of holes around the top of it, and you have to navigate the ball around the holes. Kind of like a labyrinth as well.
That's clever.
And that's pretty neat.
Because some of the Lego, like Lego Indiana Jones, and even I think there was a segment in one of the Lego Star Wars games where it was tricky because you had to run toward the camera, so the holes kind of snuck up on you. But it was like a Crash Bandicoot level. Where
yeah,
you
I was just gonna say.
Yeah, it's like, oh shit, you have to dodge the things as you're getting chased.
So, really excited about the prospect of this. I'm glad that a different company has a fresh take on these things, and also that these tables aren't going to be lost. They're just moving to a different company and a different platform. So there's more opportunity to play these games as well. And the final thing that I wanted to go over with before we end the show for today was so apparently there is an FPGA modular system called MISTer. Have either of you heard of this? I know probably MrRyu, you probably haven't heard of this at all. But
I'm like,
okay.
Mister.
Yeah. Okay.
I don't even know what it means. FPGA.
Okay.
Hey, it's even part of my name. I'm MrRyu.
Oh, it's your modular system.
So Lotus, you know what FPGAs are, right? You were joking. I thought there.
If I know what it is, then I forgot what it stands for.
Okay. Field Programmable Gate Array. They are what runs the Super NT Mini and your.
Okay.
And what's the name of the NES?
AVS.
The AVS. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So these are the way that we're going to emulate from now on.
Okay.
There are FPGAs in a lot of flash carts now as well to help emulate, like the SD to SNES has an FPGA in it, for instance, to help emulate the special chips in the games that it's allowed to play, like the Super FX chip, for instance. It is a chip that allows that emulates if you build like a circuit board, you could build a circuit board in it essentially, and get it to behave exactly like you could program it to behave like a certain configuration of a circuit board, and all of its components. So therefore, it can emulate a hardware on to the most accurate degree. So that's why the Super NT Mini is such an accurate system. It basically has the entire circuit board of a Super Nintendo programmed into it, which is really neat. So I've always thought to myself, since these systems have been coming out, these cool FPGA systems that are so good that you may even want one over original hardware. Like I honestly would say if anybody was to get into a Super Nintendo right now, to not buy an original system, buy a Super NT. There's no reason why you wouldn't want a Super NT Mini. It's the best version of a Super Nintendo, if you ask me.
Yeah, MrRyu, that was the thing I showed you with Mr. Quest.
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
It just is a Super Nintendo, except you could play it in 720 and 1080.
Yeah. Really cool. So I thought to myself, why doesn't somebody just make like a console that you can program a whole bunch of cores for? Why do we just need one, right? So apparently somebody has been working on this. So the MiSTer FPGA modular system is kind of like similar to like a do-it-yourself DIY like Raspberry Pi system, but it doesn't use a Raspberry Pi. If you know what I mean, like you buy a bunch of different parts in a certain configuration, and then you can run it from there. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. It's kind of like you buy different parts to make the computer work and give it certain abilities and things like that. But I think it's something like $300 will get you all of the parts that you need in order to make this functional. But they have made FPGA cores for like tons of stuff to very accurately play a whole bunch of different systems. And not only just systems, you know, they have like a Nintendo one, a Genesis one. They have personal computers, like you can find like a ZX Spectrum core, an MSX core that plays all these games almost insanely accurately, like to the point where you couldn't even tell they're being emulated.
The only ZX Spectrum I need is in Donkey Kong 64.
No. Jetpack's actually pretty cool. Don't rag on it.
No, but I mean, but that's what I'm saying. Like they had to have a ZX Spectrum emulator in there.
That's true. It's true. But what's even better is that they are making cores that emulate entire arcade games now.
Ooh, hey.
Oh, hey.
So this is the first time I've heard of this being done.
Time to play Denshi Cop.
So yeah, like people are programming simple things so far, like Pac-Man and Galaga,
Yeah.
Where they know how these games work pretty easily, and it's to the point where I wouldn't even call this emulation, because when you think of emulation, you think of the standard like software emulation that you can download from your computer from like 20 years ago, right?
Yeah.
This isn't the same thing. This is like programming a computer chip to act exactly in the same way as an original system. It's not software emulation, so there's no lag or performance issues or anything like that.
Well, it's like what we said about the AVS and the NT Mini way back in the day. It's hardware emulation.
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly.
with chip programming, I don't know if I even call that hardware emulation. Programming is a different thing, but like the physical makeup is effectively hardware emulation.
Yeah.
So I don't have like a whole lot of information on this because I'm just really learning about it, but it's something that is up my alley. I think this is the future for retro gaming hobbyists. You'll be able to play extremely accurate recreations of arcade games using this.
Actually, that's actually great, because like I would like to play like Arcade Perfect Capcom vs SNK 2 and like Arcade Perfect Street Fighter 3 Third Strike.
Well, you don't want to play the EO edition on GameCube?
How about you shut your damn mouth?
I like
you
that
can
was
use the
one of
C
those.
stick for special moves, MrRyu.
Well, that was the
know
thing.
that?
Like, I was so jealous because like I'm not even a big fighting game guy, but Capcom versus SNK 2 was like a big thing for us back in college.
Oh, yeah.
He had it on his PS2, and I was like, damn, I would love to have this game. And then I finally saw it for GameCube, and I was like, oh, cool. And it does play exactly like the PS2 version, but the thing is, you can't button mash your way into a fight from the menu because the default option is the easy mode controls. So you always have to like select character and then select the real controls before playing the game. It's just annoying. It's not even that big of a deal, but it's just annoying enough. It's like what I said about Nintendo Switch Binding of Isaac. Not having a hard reset button is like that's just it for me. And that's kind of the GameCube, like an Xbox EO edition of Capcom vs SNK 2. It's like, oh man.
Also, I don't like the GameCube controller for 2D fighters, because I'm just like, what is this? Where are the buttons?
Use that really tiny D-pad and press that really big green button for me, buddy.
Yeah. and then B is shaped like a circle, A is a bigger circle, X and Y are bean shaped.
Look,
It's like,
like jelly beans.
You got this like
and
Z
Z's
button,
way up
which
there.
is,
Like, what is my life right now?
I mean, oddly enough, it's perfect for any other game.
Yeah, it is.
Like the
It's
GameCube
a
controller
surprisingly
is actually
good
really
controller,
nice.
but it's like, well, what?
But like everything else is like for fighting games, like what is this?
well, for Soul Calibur 2 it was really good. For a 3D game.
That's because it has
quite
4
good.
buttons.
Yeah, exactly. But I mean,
Smash is
for
not
the
a fighting
games,
game.
for the games that specifically are built for it, like Metroid Prime, for instance, is beautiful with that controller. In fact, it doesn't feel right with any other controller because it's built for it. You know what I mean?
But then you play like a PS2 game, and it's like, now do it on the GameCube. It's like, oh, okay.
Here, play Mega Man X Chronicles with this.
Or Command
I'm
Mission.
good, man. But I just wanted to talk about this because this may be something I, when I have a little extra money, I might get into. Because like, I can't wait for like some obscure ass Data East games, like Trio the Punch. Man, I'm gonna play arcade accurate Trio the Punch and show the world it.
Finally, you can upgrade from the Japanese
Karnav's
PS2
Revenge.
games.
Karnav's Revenge. No, that exists. That's on Switch. That's on
really?
Switch.
Oh
Yeah.
shit!
Fire!
That's one of the that's a Neo Geo game, I believe. So
Yes,
yeah,
it is. And, like,
it's on there. Yeah.
I just love the like special move like callouts, because like they're each in their own like respective language. And like one of my favorite one is like this wrestler Marstorius from like Greece. His like grab is like a German suplex, but when he does it, he's like German. That's it. He just
That's
goes,
all he says, just German?
And
That's
then like
amazing.
if you do the double input, he goes double German.
That's fantastic.
Double
Wait, is the voice bit for German the same as one of the single?
Yes.
So it's like double German. Like it doesn't sound right.
No, like it sounds right, but like it's just like he's just saying German.
Yeah, that's fantastic.
German.
That's really funny. I need to buy this game. I might just buy it just for that. And Balloon!
Yeah, I remember
Yeah, and
Balloon.
then like you got this like Thai going "Tikaku, tikaku," and then like the Chinese guy's like going "Xinjia for Xinjia." I was just like, what the fuck is this?
I just love though, like I have to keep reminding myself that like occasionally when we do Let's Plays and whenever you see fire, you just go like fire. Like that's what that's from. Fucking
Oh, yeah,
Karnav's
yeah.
Revenge. Nobody understood the Karnav's Revenge reference.
Come on.
But yeah, I actually imagine that the FPGA core for a Neo Geo is not too far off because that that was an actual system. So you could do a lot with the FPGA by coming up with just an FPGA for Neo Geo because all the other games will follow, right? So I would think that would like any work done on that would be very fruitful. So why not? Let's get these FPGA systems out there. It'll be a lot of fun. Really cool. So anyway, I just wanted to talk about that because I thought it was very interesting, and unless you're in certain circles, you'll never hear about it. Especially since it's a very DIY kind of project kind of thing.
It's more for the hardcore like crew.
Yeah, you need to buy individual parts to make this thing from different places and all kinds of stuff. It's not user friendly for sure, but it pays off. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So I will update if I ever get into it, but it's an exciting time, and it may lead to something else where more consumer friendly console FPGA console is made. I mean, the NT Mini, the regular NT Mini, does this kind of thing, but it's out of production. So, with the jailbreak firmware, you could play like Coleco games, and things like that, ColecoVision games. But like, that's the closest thing we've had until this thing. So, I think that will be the show for this week, unless you guys have anything to add.
No, I think I'm good.
Not really. I
Okay.
think we're good.
Well, please remember to subscribe to the Corrective Consciousness YouTube and SoundCloud pages. While there, please give us thumbs ups, likes, and 5-star ratings on iTunes. It helps promote and spread awareness of the show, and any bit of encouragement helps keep the show going. You can also catch us on Thursday for our sister podcast, Corrective Consciousness, the podcast where we explore the inanity of pop culture. Finally, you can friend me as vysethebold on Steam, PSN, Xbox Live, Twitter, Switch, and Battle.net.
And you can follow me on my YouTube channel, Lotus Prince. You can hit me up on Twitter at Lotus Prince. And finally, if you're interested in seeing my videos early, getting in on exclusive live streams, selecting upcoming games for me to Let's Play, currently working on Call of Cthulhu Dark Corners of the Earth, or getting in on a Discord chat with me and other patrons, then perhaps consider swinging by my Patreon account, which can be found at patreon.com/LotusPrince.
Well, all my accounts are pretty much dead, but if you want to, you could friend me as MrRyu 45 on most gaming platforms.
Please go on Monster Hunter World and troll him every day.
Unfortunately, you can't troll that hard in that game. That you can't like meme.
I'll find a way.
Well, I mean, basically just don't pull your weight in a fight.
Oh no, trust me, I'm gonna be the one doing the trolling.
Although actually, speaking of accounts that are alive though, like you beat Savage God Kefka.
Oh yeah, actually, like right before. Okay.
That's freaking ridiculous, man.
I guess like is the show's not over yet then.
Yeah.
Please do tell.
Okay, so right after work, I was like, okay, well, like this raid tier of like the hardest content is like just about to be over since like there's gonna be a new patch with a new raid tier coming up. So I'm gonna like probably like this final fight, and maybe I'll just be able to clear before maintenance. And then like I found out that maintenance was like in 3 hours, and like I haven't gotten past like a certain phase. I'm like, oh god. So I just like put myself up in Party Finder along with a friend who I convinced to like stay on to like just try to clear the damn thing. So we did get a party of people who were like just helping people like clear last minute, and I did get the part that like was the hardest down, but like everything else was semi-blind because like I just reviewed a mechanics video. I did die to like a really just like easy mechanic because I'm like, wait, which one is this one? And I mistaken it
Kefka's
for a
full of
different
trickery
one.
bullshit.
Yeah, but after that it was like super clean, and we actually like cleared it 5 minutes before maintenance.
Jesus Christ, dude!
And
I
I was
didn't
like,
know
oh
that
my
part.
god, I did it! While it was still somewhat relevant.
That's amazing.
That's amazing.
How long did the fight take? Was it actually? It could like because I mean, there's no way the one fight was 3 hours.
A clean run, during like the God Kefka phase is like 10 minutes.
Jesus
clean.
Christ, it's so
So
stressful.
if you mess up at like at 8 minutes in, you start over.
You can't recover. Yeah.
Yeah, and it takes one party member to fuck up to like.
Well, it's like Outrun, right? You're allowed one crash, one.
Except you're relying on your other 7 teammates to not fuck up.
Ugh.
Yeah, it was like that while I was playing Hollow Knight. I finally beat that. The final boss of the game. In order to get to him, you have to beat a different boss, and if you lose during the final boss, you have to fight the original boss again to get to him.
Oh, I hate that.
It's very Ninja Gaiden-esque. I mean, it doesn't send you back like 2 levels, but
well, it's Mortal Kombat. This is such an esoteric reference, but it's Mortal Kombat Shaolin Monks. It's like a 3-part boss. You have to do all 3 of them.
So you have to beat this one boss, and then you have to, like, if you want to get the true ending, you have to do something to that boss at a certain point in the fight.
Oh.
And then you go and you fight the real last boss, and that has like 3 forms. So luckily your health recharges once you get to the real boss, but it's just the fact that you you very well may like lose during any of those phases, and then have to restart the whole thing all over again.
Yeah.
You may even lose during the first boss, the first boss, because he could probably get in. If you're not playing well, he could kill you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of funny.
Well, the thing with God Kefka though is like there is I guess Door Kefka, which is like a regular clown Kefka, and if you beat that, you start at the God Kefka point. Thankfully, so I'm just like, oh okay, because like. Yeah, if you don't pass like regular Kefka, you can't get to God Kefka. But thankfully, they made it so like it's not like bullshit. Where it's like I have to go through this again.
Yeah.
Does it play Dancing Mad while you fight him?
Oh hell yes, and
of
that's a really good. It's a really good like tune of remix of Dancing Mad.
And also, you hear the Super Nintendo like whoop, 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 whoop.
Yeah, you do. He does do that at the very beginning of the fight. He's like, whoop, 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 whoop. It's like, oh yep, Square Enix knows.
Awesome.
Yeah. And if you get the mount, which is like the Air Force plane from Final Fantasy VI, it plays Dancing Mad.
Nice.
That's awesome. Really cool stuff. All right, well, that is the show for this week.
Man, we really, really extended.
Yeah, that's okay. We were talking about cool stuff. We will catch everybody on Thursday for a new episode of Corrective, where we talk about some horror gems that we've been wanting to talk about for the Halloween season here.
Oh no, I don't want to talk about it.
Too spooky for you.
I had to subscribe to Oh Shit Skeletons magazine.
I followed that page because of you. Thank you so much.
Anyway, until next time, everyone.
Until next time.